Hey guys, Bart from TST Industries here, bringing you another great install video, this time on a 2015 and up Yamaha FZ-07. In this episode, we'll be installing these TST Industries flush mount signals, available in either clear lens or smoked, along with the TST Industries harness converters that take these bullet style connectors on the end of your signals and convert them to OEM style plugs for a plug and play installation. It's a really simple procedure. Follow along, let's begin. So the first step will be to remove these fasteners here from the top. And in anticipation of working on both sides of the bike here, I will actually remove all four of these in this first step, make it easier later. All right, in the following step, we will be removing this fastener here. This one does have a shoulder washer behind it, so you have to make sure not to lose it. It looks like this. And I will switch over to a smaller Allen here. Remove the screw up here. So now this piece of the shroud is free, but as you can see here, I can't really pry away on any of these components here to access where the plug is. So I will need to remove the top screw from the other side of the bike, and that will make this whole assembly hinge down along with the headlight here, and we'll get access to where the plug is. All right, so pull up on this boot, it releases from a rubber clip, and we'll have a signal plug here that we will just disconnect. So now we will need to remove this OEM signal lamp from the shroud. To do that, on the bottom there's an access window to this component here. We will pry it out. As you can see, that just comes off, and then that unlocks the signal lamp to just be removed just like that. I'll show you guys again. So this component is here to jam this lamp in the geometry that it's held in, and once you pry up on its tabs and remove it from the rubber keeper here, that's free to just come out. All right, we can put that to the side. And now we'll grab this component. We'll grab one of our TST Industries signals and fit it through. And we will see if the nut fits over into this well, or if we'll need to do some adjustments here. So it looks like the nut is just a bit too large to fit in the bottom of the well. What we will do is use one of these spacers that come with these signals, and that will make this installation possible. All right, so I will arrange the signals from the outside with the flow of the geometry that they mount into, and on the inside I will have spacer arranged like this, pretty much just jamming it in place. And now I will put the nut onto the wires of the signals here at flange first, and this will enable me to actually turn this nut down onto the stud protruding from the back of the signal. Now we will have these assembled onto the shroud. I'm gonna grab a pair of needle nose pliers here. Those are usually pretty handy. And turning in these fasteners here. Once I get it close to bottomed out, I'm just gonna do a final adjustment here to make sure it's assembled nicely in the center. And it's looking like I'm off by just a little bit. So I'll just adjust that on the back here. That looks pretty good to me. Now I'm just going to lock it down. And you want to get a good amount of tension, but you don't want to over tighten that because you are using plastic components and they will likely snap on you if you over tighten them. So now this part's ready to go. And what we'll do now is plug in the harness converter. Make sure you get full engagement. And now we will test out different combinations of wires here. We have yellow and black on the signal, blue, brown, and red on the harness converter. So we will power up the bike and turn on that side signal. Please note that you don't want to make connection from one of these to its adjacent ones. You will likely blow a fuse. Now, from the knowledge of these bikes and previous installations I've done, I'm going to try black to red and yellow to blue. I'm sorry, yellow to brown. That looks like that is the connection that we want to make. So at this point, I will grab some electrical tape, and basically what I'm going to be doing is locking down these little vinyl boots over the connectors so that they don't slip off. See how they're a little loose here? If they slip off and they can touch together, you'll create a short circuit and you will have a problem then. Blow fuses. So let me grab some electrical tape and we'll keep moving. All right, so now I will lock these things down. We've had some comments on our channel about the use of electrical tape on these connections. I've used electrical tape for years, and in areas where we don't have a lot of heat accumulation, it works just fine. If you guys want to use harness tape or some other means of insulation, that's fine. But in my experience, electrical tape for this type of job is just fine. So as you can see, I made sure that none of the electrical connectors, the crimps, are exposed. And then I'm getting a nice tight wrap over all these wires and connectors. And then I'm just going to make sure that the end piece of this tape is also adhered under tension. And there we go. We have a nice little package here. This is ready to be assembled back onto the bike here. So what I'll do is just route the wire in here. We have a substantially longer wire now, so we'll have to do something with that. I will just hide it behind the tail light, the headlight here, and reel it around a feature I have here. And now I'll be able to install this back on here. So what we'll do, we will still leave all this undone because we still have to get to the other side. But this part can get put back on. We'll replace the screws for those two connections. And for now, I'll just establish a placeholder. I'll tighten everything up later. So on the bottom here, Remember, we had that shoulder washer. I'm going to insert that from the inside of this shroud like this, and then put in the appropriate screw to hold that portion in place. Before I go too far, I'm going to make sure that my connection is still good. It is looking good. Now I will remove the rest of the components on this side. So we still have one fastener here that needs to come out. And just like on the other side, it has a washer that we need to retain. Now this is free to come off. I will unclip it from the harness. And just like on the left side of the bike, we will undo this clipped feature here, this retaining component. All right, slip it down towards the plug, take that off, give it a twist, and it just comes off just like that. Grab a TST Industries signal, put it in place, use a spacer. And now in the placement of this spacer, I basically just plop it in place and get this nut over and clamp down on it just a little bit, and then I can use a flathead screwdriver to move the spacer around a little bit to be able to offset where this signal sits. So that's what I'll do now. And when it starts getting a little rough here, I'm going to start using a pair of needle nose pliers to make this job really easy. All right, so now I have some tightness on this. We'll configure the spacer and the signal in a way that accomplishes the look that I want. I think I tightened down on it just a little bit too much, so I'm going to back it off to enable me to have a little bit more wiggle room for adjustment. All right, and that looks good to me. I'm going to hold the signal from the outside and tighten this down so that's locked in place. Again, you do not want to over tighten this. All right, we're looking good here. Final little adjustment. And now I will install the harness converter in the same color code as we found on the other side. So yellow to brown. And then red to black. All right. And now I will plug it in, test it, make sure that it works. Making sure that I don't have any of these conductors touching. And we're looking good. I'm gonna shut the bike off. Lock these sleeves in place. All right, this looks nice and neat. Now we can configure the wire inside here. So now we need to pull this hole over this locking feature here. Give it a tug, making sure that it penetrates through that hole, and then do the same on here. Now this is locked in, it's captive. I have a little bit of extra length here that I want to secure somewhere, and right here we have some nice space for that here. All right, I'll move on to the reinstallation now. All right, so we will begin by reinstalling the shoulder washer under here. and screwing in the screw that came out of that location. I like to keep everything decently loose in the beginning, and then I just tighten everything down at the very end. So I'll get this in place. All right. Now all these components are held together pretty good. I'll bring this whole assembly here up towards the upper triple clamp where you can find the mounting bosses for them. And then I'm gonna screw these in. Now these two screws up top here, they have a slightly smaller Allen head with a washer. So that's how you can identify those. All right, so a note on the 4 top fasteners here, they are fastening into rubber weld nuts. These do not need to be installed with a lot of torque. So what I like to do is just use my hands, get them bottomed out to where they have some tension, and then give them a half turn. These will never vibrate out. The rubber locks it in place, keeps tension on it, and you will not have a problem with these coming off. So now we will just go over this whole assembly and tighten down the remaining fasteners. And at the end of every install, what I like to do is to test the system once again, making sure everything works. So it's looking like we did a good job. Everything works here. As you can notice, these signals are flashing really fast, and this is very typical of LED signals replacing incandescent signals that came from the OEM. This happens because the bike system is fooled into thinking that there is a bulb out because the LEDs draw very little current. So to correct this, you either need to wire in resistors or replace your flasher relay. What we like to do here at TST Industries is always replace the flasher relay because it's the most professional way to solve this problem. It's just plug and play, plugs into the OEM unit, in place of the OEM unit, sorry, and it's located behind this shroud here. So what we'll do is shoot a separate video for the installation of this part. If you guys are interested, check it out. We'll have a link at the end of this video, or you can find it in the Yamaha section of our YouTube channel. So for the purpose of this installation, we are done. This bike is ready to go.